that you won't really feel all that much a part of things. Please look for details at blackenterprise.com on Women of Power Summit and all of our great events. Now, speaking of women of power, we are honored and blessed and delighted to have a legend and longtime Black enterprise friend share her amazing journey with us this morning. Janice Bryant Howroyd is an entrepreneur, business ambassador, author, educator, presidential appointee. As founder and CEO of the Act One Group, she is a global leader in providing customized, cutting-edge solutions in the human resources industry. This year, celebrating 40 years in business, give it up for 40. The Torrance, California-based Act One Group began as a single office in 1978, famously, she will tell you, with a phone, a fax machine, and a whole lot of prayer, and now operates in 22 countries. She is founder of the second largest Black-owned company in the nation, and the only woman, yes, go right ahead and clap. And to date, she is the only woman to have received the A.G. Gaston Lifetime Achievement Award, which is the highest honor bestowed by Black enterprise to an entrepreneur. Please give a warm welcome to Janice Bryant Howroyd. Can you hear us? Hello? Yes? No? Yes? Sound? Can we get a techie? Can you hear me now? Yes. No? Okay, I'm gonna start screaming in a minute. I can do that too. Good
Well,
morning.
I'm one of 11, so I learned to scream early.
I know that's very true. So, in bringing you out, what I did not say this morning, I'm sure you all know, and it placed you in the history books. I didn't mention that Act One Group is a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, I didn't mention that, not just because everybody already knows, but because you don't view that detail, grateful as you are for it, as the defining center of your story.
You're right, Caroline. It's not the defining center of my story. First, let me just thank you so much for welcoming me so beautifully with 48 years for Black Enterprise. And this is, how many years? 23 years of doing this?
A lot.
This is incredible. I think that's wonderful. I think that's history
Summit.
making as well.
Thank you.
And you know, it's appropriate as one of 11 children from Tarboro, North Carolina. I'm so happy to be in my home state. It's just incredible to me that I'm sitting on a stage talking with you at a Black Enterprise Summit because Black Enterprise taught me so much when I was building my business. And I also need to say that Black Enterprise has supported so many businesses by advancing their stories, their successes, their needs, whether it be economic or political, on a much broader stage than individually businesses could have done. So this is such a wonderful homecoming. Thank you.
Thank you. We always love having you. You know that. But your story, you know, is something that the billion-dollar thing, you know, the multi-billion-dollar thing has overshadowed decades of extraordinary work, of innovation, of determination beyond all odds. So talk to us about what you feel the defining characteristics of your story are beyond those big blingy numbers.
Well, you know, years ago, this is not a political statement, it's simply a conversation, yes? Years ago, when, am I using both of these? Is this better? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Caroline, years ago, I visited the White House when Bill Clinton was in office, and several of us were in a room talking with him. And one of the questions that came from the 4 or 5 of us there was around the enormity of the government and the numbers, the complexity of numbers. And he said something that stuck with me. He said, you know, when I got here, those numbers were really amazing to me as well. He said, but I learned something. I just take the zeros off, and I'm doing math from 1 to 9, and then I put them back on. And he said the important thing is that you make sure that those numbers are in the positive. Don't get caught up in the string of them. Make sure they're in the positive. So the thing for me that gets missed, I think, about my story, the Act One group, and the many wonderful people who are part of my organization, is that we've managed to build a business over these years since 1978 that is a positive business, positive in how we approach our marketplace, and we've done it in a profitable manner. Businesses can tell all types of numbers, but we've been able to do it in a profitable manner. And that profit is not just inside the company, it's how we profit the communities. We're at core in the business of employment. We keep great people working. Now, you know I'm in a highly competitive landscape, and doing business in 22 countries across the world, I'm competing with some of the largest publicly held companies there are. The thing that's so exciting for me, and you mentioned innovation, is that our teams are working in ways that deliver technology solutions. We deliver process solutions, but most importantly, we're delivering incomes and jobs and careers to people across the globe. Now, I want you to think about what I'm saying. I grew up as one of 11 kids, same mom, same dad, in a small southern town a whole lot of years ago. Don't let the stilettos fool you, okay? And I'm leading an organization that designs workforce solutions, delivers jobs and careers in 22 countries. That's my story. Talk about the numbers all you want, but make sure we discuss the profit, not just of the business from a dollar sense, but from a sense of what it means to the economics for many families. That's what I'm proudest about.
Yeah. You raised the issue of technology.
Yes.
And certainly that has been a real game changer in your industry in the last several years. The advancement of the technology business, the need to fill those jobs, which are plentiful, and when it comes to finding us, they say it's very difficult. Can you talk about, because Act One really stepped out early with technology, also in how you deliver your services and embracing how technology could help you do what you do. So can you talk about some of those things and what you foresaw and how you responded, both getting out in front of things and following?
So when we're talking about technology in business, let's make sure that we're talking from a level platform. Thought I was going to say level playing field, didn't you? Actually, technology in many ways did tend to ease the playing field for me, though. But here's the important platform about technology. Every business is in the technology business. You're not doing business today unless you're in the technology. Years ago, I visited South Africa, and I was doing a keynote there at a business event. And I noticed many of the business owners who came up to me were conducting their whole business from their cell phones. This was prior to that becoming the thing here in the US. And I thought about that. And I said, I said, self, you can approach it from this perspective. They are without a lot, and so they're making with what they have. Or you can say they're really advancing their story. In many ways, my business is similar to those business owners who I met in South Africa, because I learned that I really need to be in front of where the need is in terms of how I'm designing technologies that allow me to compete in a marketplace that may not offer fair opportunity. Then I have to change that for myself, and technology leveled that playing field for me to a great degree. It enabled me to algorithmically make better decisions decisions in my business quicker, faster, smarter, and deliberately directed toward the outcomes I wanted, which for me, one of our brands in the Act One group is Apple One. Apple One is our staffing brand. And must be some Apple One people in the room. And when I look at what they do every day putting people to work, it amazes me. We do that so much more effectively with technology we designed ourselves. I have over 200 people who do nothing but design technology for my organizations. And we're able to advance people's stories in front of employers. We're able to advance companies' processes in how they are not only recruiting talent, but maintaining and growing that talent. And then when you look at, most people think, well, the technology development and employment in Act One group has been done around Agile One, which is our TTPP, right? Talent, technology, process, right? And procurement. That's true. But our staffing company utilizes it in such a dynamic way. So I have to sit here and tell you that's been really important to me. The other thing about what's important to me when we're talking technology is that that's just the T in the bigger picture. Now, many of your audience are familiar with STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. My company, by virtue of our huge exposure, allows me to ensure that we're working in a dynamic way to deliver. So this is the second thing about technology. It allows us to deliver dynamically to the applicant population, the worker population, and the pre-worker population. We work with so many universities and colleges. We have internship programs that are dynamic where people are earning above minimum wage and are working in organizations who are hungry to hire them. And we are all aware of what unemployment is, but many of us are not aware of what it means, especially to certain communities. The third thing about technology, and I'm really getting into this because it's very important for people to understand the A, B, and the C of it, is artificial intelligence. So let's talk about how that plays into what I'm doing. I've mentioned to you that I'm in the business of employment, right? I've mentioned to you that technology platforms, how employment is occurring and how businesses are driving their total solutions. The other thing about it is that a couple of years ago, the last year I think that President Obama was in office, I was asked to come into Washington, D.C. through a Bloomberg research and work on the impact of work. Now, when we think about work, work has historically occurred from a pyramid shape where you have the majority of workers here supporting the workers here. That pyramid is pretty much egg-shaped on its head right now, and it's becoming more of a pyramid this way, where we're having this many workers support this many non-workers, people who are at retirement or out of work for whatever reason. And with the employ of artificial intelligence, many people are now concerned about not just will it take jobs away, but how do we keep the humanity in human resources? How are we now approaching it from a legal perspective of where it can occur? And I have to tell you that I'm discovering and working myself in a way that ensures that we are allowing artificial intelligence to complement and supplement human effort, but not to replace it. So technology has so much implication in everything we're doing. We must have complete conversations about it, and we must understand the advantage it offers, and then work in a regulatory way to ensure that it is actually delivering the goal that we all intend for it to as a multi-nation complex, not simply just here in the U.S.
Yeah.
How does that help you?
Yeah. You know, I think one of the questions is, what are your concerns as you look at today's entrepreneurs, many of whom are in the tech space, but many of whom are not, and our orientation toward technology? When you mentor so many entrepreneurs who are just starting out and who have been coming along for some time.
I'm starting to sound old up here.
No,
Somebody
but
called me a
do.
legend the other day. I'm like, legends are dead unless they're John, you know?
But but you stand as a beacon and you do mentor a lot of people. And there are issues around our orientation culturally, right, toward technology, embracing technology, using technology for businesses that are starting out today. So if you were starting Act One today, you started Act One with $900 angel investment. The angel was your mother.
Absolutely, and she continues to be. I love you, Mommy. She's watching. They're streaming for her.
And a fax machine, a phone, and your contacts. So if you were starting today with those things, how would you do things differently? How would you approach things differently? And the markers that really made a difference for you along the way, would those same markers be there, or would you be envisioning it an entirely different way? Because you've always been very honest about the fact you didn't have a huge background in business.
Right.
You had a whole lot of prayer and a whole lot of faith. And you had contacts, so you have relationships. That's key. That's never changed.
Relationships. They didn't just come flowing in.
So talk about that. If you were starting today, what would you need to do differently? What would you do exactly the same because it paid off so extraordinarily well?
The most dynamic thing that I would do differently today, starting a business in today's environment, would be to forgive myself for being a smart black woman sooner. It's interesting you asked that question, Caroline. It's like you're in my head. I was just in my South Charlotte office yesterday, and I was sharing with an incredible Apple One team there. I was asked by them a similar question, the same question phrased differently. And the truth is that I learned early in life, I taught myself early in life that it hurt to be smart and black. I'm part of that integration society. I attended segregated schools in my hometown. Do any of you know about segregated schools? Are you going back that far with me? And my town was black and white. Black here, Panola Street divided us. My town actually was a plantation town, and in many ways still is. And I had the long trek to school. My brother Carlton, who's in this room somewhere now, and my other two brothers rotated picking me up from school because they wanted to, my dad said, we're not going to have her beat up getting an education. And it was just the worst year of my life was the year that I spent as the integration in a white school. Our solution was sending smart kids to white schools so white school wouldn't feel afraid that we, bring it down in any way. And so I got picked to go. And I went, and it was a horrible year for me in many ways that I don't need to deliberate here. But what happened for me is that told me, because we decided that we would send the smart kids over, it taught me that being smart and being black hurt. And it was punishing. Many years later, I was sitting in my tub, and our daughter, who is right and left brain gifted, came in to sit with me, as she would do many times when we had our best conversations. She was 12 and a half years old. We decided that she would go away to Massachusetts to school. She was going to be going to college. She'd not yet had a menstruation cycle yet. We had family there who would nurture her, and we thought, what a great decision. She had big bullet tears in her eyes, and she said, why are you sending me away? And I thought to myself, that's exactly how I felt in my community when I got sent to a school across town at risk I did not want to pioneer into. And I made the decision for my daughter that we would not allow what God intended as a gift to become a curse and send her away from us. We found a different solution to her education, and it worked brilliantly for us. For me in business, to do something different today, I would very quickly forgive myself for being smart, black, and female, and get on with it.
When you think about the big markers, right, it's a long way from $900 total $1,500 startup capital in 1978 to 2018 and where you are and where your business is. You mentioned family. You've always worked with your family. You feel very strongly about that. Can you talk about some of that? Because, you know, I don't want to beat the legend thing to death, but one of the things that I think people always appreciate about you is that you always bring a sense of history with you. And at a time where we're always so future thinking, so forward thinking, racing ahead, to not be able to carry the lessons with us of the past cripples us, right? So can you talk about why you choose to work with family? You now have children working in the business.
Yes.
And why you think that's important, particularly for us.
Well, I think it's important for everyone. One of the ways that is particularly important for me as a part of that equation of us is that it not only keeps me level, because anybody who knows my family knows that we're all type A's. Well, all of them except me, okay? And I've got a brother and a sister right here with me right now. But I need to say this. Because of the way we hire in our organization, we have many family members. I've also got a family member named Shane Riley, who's family member by adoption, who's here. When I say adoption, he adopted himself into the family of what we're doing. So I think what we're talking about is setting a culture to how we work. And my family culture has always been one of support. Mommyisms from Elretha Bryant that earliest in my childhood, I remember, education is freedom. The result is the truth. Dad telling us if you go to bed angry, it's your attitude, not your aptitude. These types of things are the thread that not only seamed a family together in a very dishonest and inequitable economy, it seamed us together in our purpose. We talked yesterday about reason and purpose. You can have a reason for doing something that parachutes you into a purpose for how you continue in life. And having family in business allows you to be very clear about the reasons and intentional about your purpose. Now, I mentioned to you that there are 11 of us that in my biological family. That means there are 10 siblings born to me. And yeah, a lot of them worked in the company. A lot of them are not in the company either, let me tell you that, okay? You know, you take care of folks the way you have to, right? Some are good on the journey and some you send it back home to. But the truth of it is, I have a very educated, talented type A sibling population. And when we are not in an office or not in front of a client, you're not going to sit in that room and easily determine who the CEO is. These folks are coming at it and coming with it. And that keeps me very excited. And now we've got second and third generation people working in our organization. That is such a blessing to me that we have these people who are bringing so much. And you and others have heard me say, oh, I'm the most magnificently mature millennial you'll ever meet, right? Come right, y'all, come right. And so much of that is about how I approach life, but you know, I have to say the majority of it is how life is approaching me. Working with these millennials and next gens opens my mind and my heart. You yourself just said very few minutes ago that when I started my business all that long way ago with a fax machine, and I thought I was Judy Jetson with a fax machine. Okay, y'all old too, you know who Judy Jetson is. Right, and her son Elroy. But I thought, wow, how could life get any better than this? I grew up with mimeograph, you know, and today I've got people sitting on the shores of beaches doing work in Southern California with team members in Germany and in Japan, This is incredible, right? And these are the things that not only young technology, but young minds are bringing us. You know, technology is kind of like, we're in North Carolina and we're in Charlotte, so some of y'all might know about NASCAR, right? Whether you like it or not, you know about it, right? And most people who are familiar with that will tell you that it's not the car, it's the driver. And the secret for me, which is no secret, truly, people just keep their eyes shut to that truth, is that in our equation, I mentioned TTPP very quickly to you. I said talent first, then technology, process, and procurement. That car or that horse, if you follow horse racing, whatever your machine of choice or your mobility of choice is, it's never going to be any better than the person driving it. And these young people in my organization are driving us. They're teaching us. They're guiding and leading us. And then they're appreciating what we can offer to them. You know, all they lack is the confidence. They come into my organization with the knowledge. We provide them the experience. And we all know that knowledge married well to experience is what breeds confidence. So I'm excited. I'm excited about family, because family is keeping it all moving.
You talked about purpose and reason. Can you talk about vision and goals? Because I've often heard you say, you know, you envisioned success, but you certainly didn't envision everything that came, right? So how do you connect your sense of success and what you hoped for your company and saw for your company to what it all actually became and how it rolled out? How much of that fueled what has happened and continues to?
I think the last time you and I talked together, Caroline, I was sharing with you that when I was growing up, that little girl in Tarboro, North Carolina, I didn't even know what human resources was by name. And my familiarity with work on the larger part was that the majority of the women who worked in my community were getting up very early in the morning, being picked up and delivered into people's homes to work, and then they found their own way home. They would walk home. Whoopi Goldberg actually made a movie, I think, called The Long Walk Home, or
I think so,
of
something like
such,
that.
that described very, very similarly the situation with my experience with work. And the most professional people I saw were preachers and teachers in my community. And by the way, they remain some of the most professional people I know to this day. But having a picture of what my future could look like for me was not a veil to me. What I did have were parents who taught us so much and worked, and mom literally saved nickels and quarters to buy us books and print media, Jet Magazine, Ebony. Some of you may remember a periodical called Sepia. Those were what we were reading, and then thankfully Black Enterprise came along and gave me opportunities to see, to envision what my future could be like. Mom and dad, church, and those 3 F's, family, faith, and fortune, gave me what I needed to envision what a future could look like. It was the application of work that entailed discipline, continuous learning, and an appreciation that discipline is not a dirty word, were what turned vision into accomplishment. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And dreaming is not goaling. Dreaming is important, but dreaming is not goaling. Dreaming feels good. Goaling actually achieves the result for you. And that's the big distinction.
Staffing and human resources can be one of the most challenging parts of any business, right? As you grow a business, as you have to hire people, as you have to find talent that's really going to suit the needs you have, and then develop them and have the responsibility for them. What do you want to say to this audience as they go about building their companies, scaling their companies, finding talent, sourcing it, developing it? What are the most important things you think they need to know about how to go about that process, what to look for in talent, and how to manage that responsibility, that extraordinary responsibility for people's livelihoods.
So when business owners are coming to Apple One, which they are, yes, coming to Apple One to find your employees to allow us to escort you through that process, we can deliver them to your door. It's up to you now to understand that you're not the most important employee in your organization. Very often when we're building small businesses, we get this hero. You know, we go from zero to hero in a minute, right? I got my business license. Now that zero yesterday is a hero today. That can lend itself to believing that you're the most important person in that organization. You are never the most important person in that organization. And I'll share with you some mommyisms that have stead me well, that I think will stead your audience well. One of the things I remember Mom saying to me, you talked about getting the A.G. Gatson Award, right? Gatson Award. I remember the first award I ever got for business, and I called my mom so excited about it. And Mom said, you know, I want you to understand the award is not the reward. And she said, every single one, and at that time I had 22 employees. I didn't think life could get any better. Now I have over 2,000 employees. And I remember Mom said, the award is not the reward. Every one of those 22 who will celebrate you getting that award are a part of how you earned that. And I want you to remember that all your life. Well, that's very similar to how we were raised as a family. Remember, I said to you, Dad would tell us, if you're in disarrangement at night, we could argue all day. He loved a good fight, right? He believed that it was exercise for your most important muscle, your brain. And he'd say, you know, if you can't solve it, it's your attitude, not your aptitude. That's exactly what Mom was giving me back about my business. Your attitude can't put you in front of your employees, because you need to be hiring people smarter than you are about each thing they're doing, you know. And when we find CEOs getting into difficulty, as your question is about CEOs, we see that today. Whether they're having difficulty in how they are treating women employees or any employees, and harassment is gender neutral. It's not just men, you know, and hidden women. And when we see all of these things occurring, somebody didn't get that lesson from a good mom. You know, they have all the genius in the world to lead their business. They don't bring the right attitude to it. And it puts them in trouble, it puts their business at risk, and it puts many, many employees in very bad situations that end up being jobs and not careers.
We're going to go to questions. I just want to ask you before we do, Kate Spade's passing this week. Has started a big conversation.
And
about,
Anthony Bourdain this morning in
yes,
Paris.
Yes.
Oh, I did love me some Anthony Bourdain as I traveled country to country. Very often that was the only thing I heard in English.
Yes. But it's
well, that's a compliment to him, but it's also an insult to our education system.
True. But it's opened up a conversation about success and how it looks and seems versus how it really feels and what's really happening. Mm-hmm. And you always show up. You know, there's this article called, the headline is something like, From Beyonce to Janice Bryan, Howroyd, like 10 women who changing business, right? And like Beyonce, you always show up flawless. You always have gems to drop. You always seem so strong.
You're talking about these gems are the gems of word.
All of them, all of them, all the gems. But I know that you have moved through a lot of searing stuff, and your company has continued to grow.
Stuff matters, but it's not everything.
But how do you get through those times? Every entrepreneur, every human being goes through those times. How do you get through those times and not end up losing everything?
One of the things I have said from day one, and anybody who knows anything about me has heard me say this, Never compromise who you are personally to become who you wish to be professionally. That's not saying, oh, I got to bring it all to work. Leave some home, okay? But don't compromise at core who you are to become who you think you want to be seen as. You know, that's really important. You asked me the question about family. I answered you, I have biological family and I have family by adoption in my business. Never do you see me travel alone. You talk about how I show up, talk about who I show up with. I'm showing up with a brother or a sister or an employee who really cares about the mission we're on. And when I walk out here, I'm walking out here on the STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and math, of so many talented people in my organization. Yeah, days can get rough. I mean, we dress up and, you know, we flat iron and we do all that stuff. But at the beginning of the day, people talk about at the end of the day what matters. That kind of suggests when you hear somebody say, well, at the end of the day, you know, to me I'm not hating, but that kind of suggests to me that you're saying that the outcome justifies the means, right? The end justifies the means. I was taught differently, and so I live different. It's what happens at the beginning of my day. You know, at the beginning of the day is what matters. At the beginning of the day for me is silence and gratitude, living gratitude. I mean, my brother will tell you many times with tears literally in our eyes, we've left presentations with very large clients on very big opportunities, and we're saying, thank you, Lord, for that difficult time. Thank you, Lord, for that fool in the back who asked that stupid question. Thank you, Lord, for you. Y'all done it too. You know you have, right? If you haven't, try, okay? You know, but living in gratitude. I have a sister here named Linda Motlin, and Linda Bryant Motlin, and many times I've left my home early in the morning, and we talked about stuff, and I got stuff, okay? Things that I really love. And I called my sister one morning about 3:30, headed to LAX, in complaint. I was complaining. I said, you know, now please don't take this out of context. It's a whole story, and I'll get through it. I said, you know, I call her fondly Zest. I said, you know, Zest, girl, here I am. I got to fly cross country, and I'm leaving everybody sleep in my house, and I want to be home. I want to be polishing my silver. I want to be cleaning my crystal. I want to be home to enjoy the stuff I've bought. She told me, Jan Halroy, you better, whenever she's serious, I get the whole name. Jan Halroy, you better come correct now, girl. You see how you sound? You saying you want to be home cleaning up instead of going out doing what you're doing. And I said, but I got all my stuff. I really love it. I want to enjoy it. She said, I can point to 2 people on my street right now who would love to have somewhere to get up to go this morning. And you're complaining about being driven to the airport to take a first-class flight somewhere. You know, those kind of people keep you in check. By the way, she also gives me a lot of advice on the reality and the practicality of business. But the bigger sense is that she gives me that constancy, that ability to not give back, but don't leave it. You get what I'm saying? Don't leave who you are. Depression is real. We have to acknowledge that. What we can do best is first ask people how they're feeling, understand where they're coming from, and be an agent to their journey. We also need to do that with ourselves a little bit as well. We put that dress up on, and we go out there and we start to confuse what we're doing with who we are. You get what I'm saying? And God and mommy and daddy blessed me with family who helped me. People use me as the name when they talk about the success of my business. My mom was asked recently by a journalist, aren't you so proud of Janice? My mother said, and she's a very soft-spoken Southern woman, she said, I'm proud of all of my children. They're all successful. They're happy. They're healthy. They're contributing. They vote. That matters to mom a lot, right? They vote. And I have to tell you, Mom described what success looked like. She also described one of the best formulas for ensuring that we can take care of each other, you know, to do those things. So that matters. That matters.
We have one question.
Can you hear her?
I'm not sure if you can.
There you go.
Good morning. My name is Yolanda Bynum, and I heard you say something earlier. I'm from Pine Tops, North Carolina, which is 10 minutes from
I heard you
Tarboro.
say, Yolanda, can you put it close?
Sure.
I know it feels weird, but do it.
Okay. I am from Pine Tops, North Carolina, and I heard you say something earlier, which is 10 minutes from Tarboro, of course. You said you understood that you could bring some family with you and that you would send things home. So was that a process or was that a decision for you, or just an immediate, I know who I can bring and I know who I can send things to? Because a lot of us in entrepreneurship, we have this obligation. We feel there's an obligation to take care of everyone else and everything, including the towns that you're from, if it's as small as ours. So how did you get to that point? Was it an immediate decision or was it a process over time?
When you get on an airplane, they prepare you for takeoff, before takeoff. And one of the things they instruct you to do is what if that airbag drops? What do they tell you to do?
Put yours on first.
You're the pilot of your organization. Unless you're taking care of yourself, you put every passenger on your trip at risk. Take care of yourself, okay?
Are held by women, but we only make up about 4% of the revenues. Can you please give some women advice on how we can scale our businesses, employ more people, and make more money? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. It's very important. I'm going to tell you two really important things. Get to your table so you can write it down or use your cell phone, you know, if you happen to be a millennial. First, or next gen millennials, or, you know, people talk about millennials. I'm going to tell y'all something really quickly while she takes her seat. Millennial ain't nothing new. People been transferring from 19 to 35 for years. What, amen? Well, you know, and since I'm not getting older than 35, I'm a millennial. Here's the answer to your question. First thing is, understand that you should not just let your clients select you. You should select your clients, okay? I just talked about this. Wells Fargo gave me the gift of talking with their supplier diversity community day before yesterday, and they are doing some wonderful things. And one of the things they do with us, because they are a client to us, is they encourage, not just allow, us to work through post-decision with them, making sure we're understanding what's coming. Four corners of that contract are what govern your legal opportunity in it. So that's the second thing I want you to know. Make sure you understand what's within the four walls of that contract, because when things are going great and you make decisions to support a client that are not within the constraint of that contract, consider it a gift, because if you ever get into trouble with it, it's what's inside those four walls that will govern you. I've seen many businesses perform well, but not understand the legal side of what they're doing and get in trouble far often than I have seen them not understand the math, the checks and balances, the balance sheet of their business. People like to say, oh, well, they get in trouble because they don't understand the bookkeeping of it. You don't have idiots building businesses today, and you have devices that can do the bookkeeping for you if you do. If you're running on talent versus intelligence, and they can be different things. But one thing I want you to do is make sure that you understand it's important for you to to honor what's inside of that contract. And when you step beyond that, that's on you, that's not on the client. And that you select the client, don't just let the client select you. You don't need to do business with everybody. Understand when you're ready to make that growth. There are companies we go through procurement processes with. We know we don't want to win the business. We actually have one right now, very large, well-known brand name, Fortune 10 company, who I got an email yesterday from my teams, and they gave me about 21 reasons. I read it at dinner last night to my brother and my sister about why this would be a bad contract. Yet they were still so attracted because of the brand name. Oh, it'll be great for us to do this. I'm like, great for who? I'm not trying to build business to go out of business. The stipulations in the contract were not appreciative of how I do business. And so many of us think, okay, you know, I'm on my come up and I'm going to do this and I can make this work. If it doesn't work on paper, it's not going to work in reality. Don't do it.
We could talk all day, except we can't talk all day. So please give Janice Bryan Howard a warm, warm thank you.
Hey, look, y'all stay blessed, okay? Stay blessed. You coming in the back?
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, can we give a big round of applause to Ms. Janice Bryan Howard? And of course, Caroline, thank you so much. That was an amazing session. We always learned so much. We are so grateful for this great, great session. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and join me with a resounding round of applause for Emmy Award-winning broadcaster Ed Gordon.
Good morning, y'all. All right. We are going to get right into it as we are up against the clock and trying to keep us moving. So this next gentleman really is one of those people that you say needs no introduction and then you introduce him. I don't know how that goes all the time, but whether it's 10 million albums sold, whether it's television and movies, whether it is the philanthropic and entrepreneurial spirit that has grown in him, he has been someone who has made a mark far beyond just the music that he's given us. He's moving into a number of projects. His latest we're going to take a quick look at. Let's go to the screen.
Me as a rapper, some an actor, others think a mogul in the fashion industry, a TV celebrity. First and foremost, I'm a businessman. I've hustled my way from humble beginnings to being the king of my own multi-million-dollar empire. But now, it's time to expand. I'll be bringing 16 of the nation's best hustlers to Atlanta to compete in the toughest business competition yet. The prize being a position on my team, earning a six-figure salary.
Let's go.
I grew up in a neighborhood where you're not supposed to be successful. I use all of that as my motivation. I deserve a six-figure income.
Anywhere you go, if you are associated with me, the way you present yourself will be a reflection of this company.
I'm going to do anything that I can to not only meet that standard, but to go beyond that.
Even when we're in the moment, to think outside the box. I think it's about the true value of a hustle and really being able to turn it into a dream.
As promised, the family. I'll bring in my family and friends to help me evaluate the best hustle.
Babysit, if anybody's babysitting, it's me babysitting you.
This will not be easy. What rate of return could I expect?
A key facts that I had,
That's the problem.
I'm sweating bullets right now.
Write your own shit, okay?
There are challenges designed to break you down.
Don't try to spin this shit like you got it under control, because you don't. I don't know if y'all understand this or not, but this is a real motherfucking brand.
It's gonna be a battle for survival.
They will hold nothing back.
If we go down, you go down, bro.
Oh my goodness, here they go again.
At this point in the game, man, I really don't have nothing to go back home to.
I became a Republican when I was in college. I've met with prime ministers and presidents, and I met with pimps and hustlers.
Some will rise to the top.
We got our first W, though.
$2,000.
Let's get this money. Everybody knows, in order to get things elevated, you need to hire a badass woman.
While others will be pushed to their limit.
Well, now I know how you feel, so it's game on.
It's a pressure cooker, but that's what it's made for.
Oh, God. That shit crazy.
The only way to win a competition of this magnitude is to be the last hustler standing.
It ain't over to the fat lady singing, I ain't sang yet.
This is the Grand Hustle.
Coming this fall on BET, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tip T.I. Harris.
What's going on? How y'all doing? Right on. Man, I thought they had a more sophisticated way. I thought they had a more sophisticated way to get this up here.
We got no sophistication here.
I would have brought it myself. What's going
Clifford
on?
Harris Jr.
Yes,
is
sir.
your given name, your government name, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit about who you were growing up.
I was a young man who grew up on the west side of Atlanta and, you know, in one of the many underserved areas of society, to a single mother and a grandmother and grandfather. And I knew my father. My father, he lived in New York, but I was on Bankhead.
You know what I loved? I told you I watched a Netflix story on you. For those of you who haven't seen it and you want some insight that you may not be able to get fully with today's discussion because we're going to emphasize business heavily, there's a Netflix series called Rapture, and he's on it. And you talk about when you were 5 or in the 5th grade where you bought candy and then sold it. So there was an entrepreneurial spirit from you from the beginning. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I think like most entrepreneurs, the spirit for me operating my own business derived from a dire need of extra resources. You know what I'm saying? I lived with my mother, who you know was public assistance, Section 8, welfare, food stamps, so on and so forth, and my grandparents. But when I went to see my father, who lived on Upper Manhattan, 94th and Columbus in New York City, we had all our needs met, everything. I had too much of anything to use between June and August. So when I go back home, I'm going back, you know, to the projects. And he'd always give me some. And the first thing my father taught me when I was young is, you know, a man always keep money in his pocket and you always take care of your family. So every time I'd see him, well, first of all, he'd give me $1 a day throughout the summer. You know, he was a number runner and a hustler, but I never knew what he did. I just knew he got up in the morning and left and came back and talked on the phone and counted money. That's all I knew he did. So he'd give me $1 a day, $1 a day, $1 a day. And by the end of the summer, he'd ask me, how many of them dollars you got that I gave you? I said, man, they gone, you know. And he said, now see, now that's how you understand how to make what you have stretch so you'll have what you need. And he'd give me another 100 or 2 or 3 or however much it was as I left to go back home. So as I got older, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I processed this as a 9, 10-year-old. So I'd take maybe $100 and go to Sam's warehouse, and you know what I'm saying, my grandmama would buy a bunch of candy, and I started, you know, turning a little profit, making $20 a day, and, you know, and before you know it, I had kids on other hallways selling candy for me. I was paying off teachers, a candy bar a day, and you know what I'm saying, that was like my introduction into entrepreneurship.
So there is a sense, those of us who know your backstory, there is a sense of taking that from candy trade to drug trade.
Yeah, I slowly transitioned into, the natural progression of things from Snickers and Kit Kats is crack cocaine and marijuana. That's how life goes. I thought that's how Hershey's started.
So talk to me about the idea of what we call underground commerce and trade in our community. We can laugh about it now, and you are a success story, but there is a sense of how many brothers that we lost with great business minds. Sure. We hear these stories all the time that don't get snatched up, and not by cops, but by those of us in the community say, look, bro, you smart. Come on over here and make that legal. Did you have anybody in your life that was saying, I got a bright kid here, let me see what I can, let me see if I can try to sway him this way?
Yes. Just none that didn't sell drugs, unfortunately. My cousin, Tremel, God bless his soul, he was my cousin by my grandfather, and his grandmother were cousins. And he was, maybe 10 years older than me. I was 18 years old, on Campbellton Road in Atlanta, southwest side of Atlanta, and, distributing crack cocaine. I don't know another way to say it. And I run into Toot, and, he said, hey, man, ain't you Tip? I said, yeah. And when I saw him, I knew him as, kind of like, I'll say the plug. He's the guy that what he does, but don't nobody talk to him about what he do, And so then he walks up and says, ain't you Tip, da-da-da-da. And, all my other guys who I was out there on the block with, they looking like, what they talking about? You know what I'm saying? And he's basically saying, man, so you Quint nephew, right? And Quint was my uncle who was doing 10 years at the time. I said, yeah. He said, so you Tree's son, right? I said, yeah. And then I say, so am I gonna get to ask you some questions? So long story short, he was asking me, because he heard that I rap. And rapping was something that I've always done since I was like 10 years old. And I had started doing demos, trying to get record deals. It didn't work, so I'm back out here on the block. So he's asking me about rapping, and I'm like, yeah, but like, why you asking me about that? And so he's asking me if I knew a guy named DJ Toomp. DJ Toomp was a childhood friend of his. And I say, no, I do not know DJ Toomp. I say, but when am I gonna get to ask you some questions? And so, at the end of the conversation, he said, okay, what you got to ask me? I say, man, put me on. And he say, man, hell no, I'm not finna do that. You know what I'm saying? So he began to take me under his wing and kind of show me a different side of life, if you will. The one thing he showed me was, how nobody knew what he did because he wasn't really trying to be flashy. He drove a little Honda Civic, and he woke up early in the morning, and he moved around and did his little thing, and by the time rush hour traffic was done, he was done. Back home with his family, cooking, and, trying to live as close to a normal life as possible. And he always had other businesses, like he was in the cosmetology somehow. So he had, beauty shops and barber shops, and, he did little other things. And that was the first time I saw a guy who came from what I was doing, who had kind of transitioned into another world. But I think his intention for me was, like, I think when he pulled up on me, he's like, man, what the hell are you doing out here with the rest of these guys? And if this is what you're meant to be doing, then we need to get you to doing it. And he introduced me to DJ Toomp, and, the rest is history.
Did you see rap as an art form solely, or did you see that as a career and the idea of this is how I can make money?
Well, at first, I just saw it as a way to let my older uncles let me stay in the room while they was talking grown-up talk. You know what I'm saying? They'll call me in and say, hey, Tip, do that thing, you know. And so I kick a little rap and they'll laugh. Oh man, he funny. So I could sit in there and watch Eddie Murphy Raw for a little while, you know what I'm saying? And you know, but as the genre expanded, I then began to notice. The first thing I saw was that, you know, you don't have to be an adult to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like when Crisscross came out, and I found out they were discovered at a mall. I'm like, man, I was at the mall the other day. What's going on? You know, so that's when I think, you know, Crisscross, ABC, another bad creation, if any of y'all, okay. So when they came out, you know what I'm saying, and I found out they were from Atlanta, and, you know, they my age, and, you know, I began to tirelessly kind of pursue. I started asking my daddy for money for studio time, and started trying to find studios and locate people to do production and find talent show. That's when I actually saw it as an industry.
So the popularity comes, the fame comes, you become a pioneer of trap music. All of these things start to happen. When do you understand that this is no longer just an art form, that you are now an entity within yourself? Because a lot of times when we think about athletes and entertainers, we don't necessarily always see them as business people. But once you start to kick to a certain level, I'm not talking about a one-hit wonder, I'm not talking about a dude in the NBA for, you know, a season and then he's cut. I'm talking about those like yourself who have talent, who parlay it. When do you start to understand this is a business? I am a commodity.
Right around my second album. Well, you know, my first album, you know, it was just real fun. You know, I thought I was gonna have a real 50 Cent year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like, you know, there was nobody better than me, and my music was incredible, and I was on the same record label as Outkast and Goody Mob, and, you know, I was rubbing elbows with the people that I had grown up listening to and that I admired. So I just really thought I was about to take off. So when that did not happen, you know, I had to kind of, as you just said, I had to take some of my old tactics and apply them with new efforts. And that's when I just kind of took to the street. Because one thing I did know is most of the people who was around at the time, like they wasn't really, how can I say, respectfully, a lot of them, you know, either they didn't have what I had talent-wise, or they didn't have what I had connection in the streets wise, you know what I'm saying? Like they couldn't go to places that I could go, they didn't know the people I knew. So I just started putting that together, you know. I would show up to the project, like the roughie party, and I'd be passing out my CD, and they'd be like, man, ain't nobody came in here. You know, what you doing in there? I'm like, man, here, I have my CD. So, you know, and that, I began known as the guy, the little guy who wasn't scared to go nowhere.
So talk to me about that, not the physical fear, but the idea it also takes bravery to just go and get out there. I want you to talk to those people out here who maybe are small business folks or trying to start. The idea of finding that within yourself to say, I've got to do this.
Well, this is, I think, when that is exactly the beginning of the story. When my album didn't work, I had to resort to different tactics and had to put, you know, formulate a plan together, because just because LaFace didn't see me as a priority did not mean that I didn't see me as a priority. So, thank you. So I just basically took what I had, you know what I mean? I started making mixtapes and, you know, started just traveling a small circuit from Atlanta to Birmingham, Montgomery, Columbia, South Carolina, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and then after I got that little circle down, I spread out a little bit. Okay, I can hit Memphis now. Now I can go to Biloxi. I can go to New Orleans, and I spread out a little more. Okay, well now I'm in Virginia, and now I'm okay. And that is what caused me to get the buzz that I needed for LaFace to then call me. Say, hey, what we doing with this second album here? I say, second album? I ain't heard from y'all. And, well, listen, LA really wants to meet you, wants you to come up and sit down and talk about things. Okay. So me and my manager at the time, my partner who started Grand Hustle with me, Jason Jeter, we go up to New York. We sit in. By then, we had done a bunch of research. I done read some books. You know what I'm saying? I done talked to some people. And I know exactly what I'm going in here asking for. You know what I'm saying? So when I get
hold on. Let's not lose sight of that, because I think sometimes we lose sight of that. It took a fall for you to understand, I don't know enough about this business.
Right.
My second go round, I'm gonna know about what I need to know about.
Well, that, and I need the resources to fund my own movement rather than wait on another infrastructure, rather than wait on you to care enough to say, I'm going to invest my marketing department, my radio department, my PR department behind you. So I done research, and I learned the different levels of participation as far as equity is concerned between an artist and a record label. So I go in there and he sits down, he talks to me, he say, man, I really love the response, man. It just came out of nowhere. It just came, and people just started. I'm like, no, it was not out of nowhere. There was some significant effort put into this. And my basically what my spiel was to him, okay, so since my album dropped, and it probably was about 4 to 6 months between the time it was released to the time he actually heard the buzz. So I was like, man, since my album dropped, I have been tirelessly investing in myself and basically operating as an independent record label. So for me to move forward, there would be absolutely no way I would see it reasonable for me to operate as an independent label and not get the credit for being an independent label. I said, because if I was just waiting on y'all, you'd have never called, and I'd have never been here. So for me to work on the second album to ensure that it won't turn out the way the first one did, I'm gonna need $2 million in a joint venture. And he say, that's it? I say, yeah, that's it. And he say, oh, what? I say, you could just let me go. He said, okay. He said, I tell you what, let's have lunch. Let's have lunch. He meant separately. He didn't mean together. He meant, you go and get you something to eat. I'm gonna stay here and eat. And we'll talk again after lunch. So I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So, you know what I'm saying, I went out, me and Jay went and got us a couple slices of pizza. And you know what I'm saying? We came back about 30 minutes to an hour later, and we sitting in the waiting room, and I'm looking at Jason. I'm like, man, it taking them that long? Man, well, it don't take that long to say no. We good. So we in there. We like, man, we finna get $2 million. And so then I believe it was Mark Pitts who was with LA at the time, and Mark Pitts came out and said, all right, guys, we ready. And then when he walking in, he say, man, you got what you wanted? I say, yeah. So I get in there. I say, okay, what's up? And LA say, man, I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to let you go. What? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. Let me go. So he turned me loose. But see, you know what I'm saying? What I didn't understand then, he turned me loose into the industry, like with a buzz as a free agent. I already had a song going on the radio. I was already doing shows. So I went and got 2.5 from Atlantic and a JV. You know what I'm saying? So that was the beginning of me building my own label. And you know what I'm saying? I haven't looked back. But that's how I learned how, own your masters and, joint venture versus P&Ds and, all that.
So let me take us to that spot where they say you got what you want. Mm-hmm. We're going to let you go.
Yeah.
We all have faced adversity. It's how you get up. We always talk about that. It's how you get up. There are people who don't get up. What do you tell these folks who may be facing that same kind of thing, that they either have to make a decision, that they're walking away from something, they're going to launch and they don't have quite what they believe they have to have? How do you get up and say, all right, this is not the way I thought it was going to go, but I'm going to keep going?
Man, you have to be relentless. You know what I'm saying? And I think you have to be tireless in your efforts just to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. Like, there's a vision everybody has in their head. You know, how stubborn you are and how married you are to that vision will determine how far you're willing to take your action. You know what I mean? I ain't never been ready to lay down. I'm gonna keep swinging. You know, as long as it's air in my body, I'm gonna continue to fight for whatever it is I feel I should have.
Let's talk a little bit about diversification and you getting beyond music in terms of business. A lot of entertainers, a lot of athletes have large sums of disposable income after a while. Some of them kind of wear the trappings. But others decide that I'm going to enjoy myself but do other things. What brought you to diversification? And talk to us a little bit about the other businesses that you're involved with.
Let's see. I think that my first other area of business was construction and real estate. And, you know, that was haphazard. My uncle, who had, he was like, you know, he was my father figure, mentor, who had been taken out of my life at 8 years old. And, you know, he got a conspiracy charge for cocaine and ended up doing 10 years. So by the time I was 18, when I was just getting a record deal, just got my first piece of money, he was just coming home. And I think I might have got a $60,000 check. And so when I saw him, he say, and I was bragging, I was like, man, I just got $60,000. And he say, okay, good, give me half. Like, what? Like, man, give me $25,000. I'm like, man, here. So I gave him $25,000, and I went on about my business, spent the rest, you know, but luckily, because I was so hot, you know, I just continued to earn income. So I never looked back at the 25. So I think maybe 6 months later, he rode with me through our old neighborhood, and he pulled me up to a old house that I used to trap out of. Trap means distribute cocaine. So he pointed to it. It was completely renovated, and you know, it would look nothing like it did when I was there. And he say, "That's us." I said, "What you mean?" He said, "That's us. That's our house. That's what we did." I said, "What?" He said, "Man, that money you gave me, I bought this house for what it was. I think he said $8,500. I put $15,000 into it with my own. I did it from what I learned in the penitentiary, and this is our house. And now we can either put it up on Section 8 and get about $850 a month for it. We can sell it for $60,000, $75,000, and you know, and take the profit and put it into another one, or we could." And I say, "Let's sell it." So we sold it, and we bought 2 more houses and did the same thing with it, and got some more, and we ended up doing about 65 houses on, you know what I'm saying, in our own community.
The other thing that as entrepreneurs and business people you face is failure. Talk to us about how you've dealt with that. You had a restaurant.
Yeah.
That ultimately closed.
It tanked.
Anybody who's gone into that business understands that is a difficult business up front.
Sure.
Give us a sense of how you deal with those kinds of things. Because you and I were backstage talking, there is a sense of if you're an entrepreneur but don't come with the trappings of a Wharton business degree or something, sometimes people will either underestimate you or look at you and suggest you don't know what you're doing, yet restaurants fail all the time. Talk to me about how you've dealt with that.
Well, I mean, for me, I think that you have to either understand every part of the business or understand that you need to include someone who knows every part of the business. And the person that you include, you have to, either have implicit trust or you have to have a fail-proof system, And, for me, I just knew, hey man, I can fill the restaurant up. You know what I'm saying? I can get people in here as long as the food is good, as long as, we can turn as many dollars as there needs to be turned for us to earn a profit. What I did not account for is the thievery. You know what I'm saying? How many ways there is to steal money. I did not know, I know you steal money from the dough. I know you steal money out the cash register. I didn't know that you could take 10 straws out of pack over the course of a month and end up with, $800. You know what I'm saying? I did not. I'm like, then I underestimated that particular industry. You know what I'm saying? But, luckily for me, the thing that I always appreciate is, to take risks, so I don't need to steal from you, you know what I'm saying? So, but see, everybody ain't got a TI coming to the table, so everything they making off of this particular venture is they.
While we're lining them up, let me ask you something in relation to pitches.
Okay.
Because when you become TI and the bank is behind you, everybody's pitching you every second.
Sure.
Talk to me about how you would say, if you're going to approach it this way, this is what I need to hear. Not you specifically, but a good pitch.
Well, I think that, first of all, let's address a part of the question that you said. You said, when you become TI and the bank is behind.
In other words, you got some cash.
Yeah, because ain't no bank behind me. This is all... I'm self-funded.
You got some pockets.
To be honest with you, what I think that anyone who's pitching anything should keep in mind is see it from the other person's perspective. You know what I'm saying? One thing I think that, when people pitch stuff to me, they only talk about
what they're going to get,
what they see it doing and how well it can go. They never talk about, okay, well, just in case I'm wrong, we can put these measures in place that will protect your money and you will still receive your investment back over the course of these many days, weeks, or months. And as soon as you come and all you got, that's what my granddad used to call pie in the sky, you know what I'm saying? All you doing is talking about your wishes and dreams and aspirations. You can damn near see them doing this as they talking to you. You know, I ain't, man, listen, you gonna have to go bust your ass and raise your own money for your own dream. I'm only here to earn some more money.
Right.
For more trappings.
Yeah, people have to understand your dream is your dream. It's not necessarily my dream.
That's real.
Okay, yes.
Hello. If only she could have a mic on.
Testing. Good morning, Tip. I'm from Atlanta. My name is Frida, and I'm one of the managing partners with Black Tech Charlotte.
Right on.
Thank you for telling you the truth about your story as far as Atlanta is concerned. Question is, what would it take if you're not already in the Black Tech industry or venturing into the Black Tech world? What would it take for you and other artists like yourself to enter into that world, and what are you looking for, especially in a place like Charlotte in FemTech?
Well, I have been in Black Tech, as you call it. Man, I was one of the first people in, in technology. And technology is another
So
area.
when you say in it, explain to her.
Well, when I say in it, I mean I have been investing hundreds of thousands of dollars with no return. So, yes, I am in it, you know. But I think that I go with my gut. I go with the need that I see within society and things that I see that are not yet existing. And I try, when in the world of tech, I try to invest more so in people. You know what I'm saying? If I meet you, you know, whether this idea is the idea or not, if I invest in you, I'm gonna invest in you. So, because, you know, one of the worst things we could do is invest in, if you have an idea today, and I invest in this idea today, and this idea does nothing, but then tomorrow you go meet him and that idea goes through the roof. You see what I'm saying? See, so I would rather invest in the person. So if I invest in you and your idea today, this idea and any idea for the next 10 years that you have will have to pass through here. You know what I'm saying? That's
All right, thank you. Yes.
How you doing, T.I.? I'm coming from Wilmington, Delaware. My name is Greg Wilby. Wilmington's a big banking state. I'm on the board of a credit union that's for the underserved in the city. Our problem that we're having is to get the blacks or underserved into the banking.
It's okay to say black.
Okay. And so when you in banking, they got
us.
The compliance is crazy. How can we get more icons to, the problem we have is that they don't want to get near banks for whatever reason, because of credit or whatever. How can we get more icons to be around banking and to understand financial education?
Okay, so your question is, how do you get more black people to trust the bank?
Yes.
Free money? Nah, I don't know, man. I think that every person has to have their own relationship, man, with their own, you know, their own banking entity. I think that the more you allow small business loans, you know, the more you allow first home buyers the opportunity to, you know, afford their own homes for themselves, I think that kind of instills, you have to be invested. Right. You know, how much do you want that relationship to work? You have to extend some form of an olive branch yourself. You can't just say, oh, we're the bank, you guys come deal with us. I think that you know, there has to be some level of investment there.
And the key is, thank you very much. So the key is, I think, what you've been talking about as relationships, whether it's with a bank, whether it's in the person you're investing in with it really starts with a relationship, if I like you or not.
It does.
Because if I don't like you, I'm not lending you any money. I'm not doing anything. Yes. And you know what? I see you all cut the line, but there was a young man who was in line. I want him to come up as well. We're going to get his question.
Hi.
Right on, young
My
man.
man.
Hi, Tip. My name is Kaya Tolliver. I'm actually from Atlanta as well. You went to Douglas. I went to Thurl.
Okay.
So, my question is to you is, number one, what do you see yourself in the legal cannabis industry? And number two, I'm actually co-founder and CTO of a cannabis technology startup, and I would like some time to talk to you.
Okay, was you not here yesterday? You weren't here yesterday, were you? Okay, we can't give you no, I'm just kidding.
No.
I know, you want to talk to him.
I want to talk to him later.
But listen, check it out. Okay, so. Okay, do I see myself in the cannabis industry? Now, see, this is something that, you know, this is something like that I have, no, for real, I've tossed this around, right? Now, first of all, just legally, okay, I can't be in the legitimate cannabis business technically because I am a felon. But one of my felonies was possession with intent to distribute marijuana, so wouldn't that make me an expert? You know, But
Technology.
just the technology, I got it. But now I'm saying, like, you know, it's crazy how, you know, things can be illegal for some time, and we can invest our lives, freedoms, and livelihoods for it. But once it becomes legitimate, we are completely blocked out of the business. I haven't thought my way around it yet, but you know, it's definitely been something I've been mulling over for quite some time.
So let me ask you, you said it jokingly, but could you be involved where you could be and lend expertise by not necessarily means of ownership, but perhaps I bring you on as a consultant?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps that could work.
All right.
Sure.
Young man, what's your name?
How you doing, sir?
Hello, Tia. My name is Chris. I was trying to see what advice would you give to a young person starting their business?
To any person starting a business.
A young person starting
a young person starting a business.
And in fact, man, come on up here so you can shake his hand. Come on up, man. Come on up.
Young man is.
Come on, man. Come on.
He threaded to the nines too now. You understand?
Hurry up, go shake.
What's going on, sir? How you doing? All right, nice to meet you, man. All right, what's your name? Chris. All right, cool. Now, what was your question now, Chris? I'm an old man. Let me sit back there. What was your question?
What advice would you give to a young person starting a business? And Chris, may I just say for the record, brother, you are very sharp today.
Yes, sir.
My man.
Yes, sir. Well, brother, I'm going to tell you, there's a certain thing called profit, and there's another thing called loss, okay? Okay, so you start with $10, all right? If you put $10 into anything that you want to do, if you get back those $10, then you've only made back your investment. However, if you tend to make $15 to $20, then you have made a $5 or a $10 profit. Let's just call it 15. You're a new business. It's not going to come that fast for you. So all right. So you start with 10. You invest in something. It makes 15. You put the 10 back into the company. You take the $5 and put it in a jar, and you start over again. And as that jar gets taller, then you invest more money, and then you're gonna need a bigger jar after so long. That's how that's basically the principle that any business operates under.
Grow your money, man.
Right on. Thank you for your question, sir.
So look, man, we're up against it. So in closing, what do you want people to walk away with in terms of, because we were talking about image and the idea of making sure that people understand that we're all a work in progress, right? You talk about that. In terms of business, talk to us about you being the work in progress as a closing thought.
I mean, I think we all are work in progress, no matter what level of life or business that we operate under. I think life is a series of adjustments, and if you stop adjusting, then you start dying. You can either move with the times or be left behind. So for me, it's about diversification. You know what I'm saying? Continuing to learn, grow, and evolve, and I don't know, maybe this young man might give me a job one day. You know what I'm saying? As far as my image goes, I think that anybody who has ever encountered me, man, they know that I lead with respect. I'm gonna give people respect, the courtesy that they deserve. I don't care what you are, what you do, whether you're the CEO, the janitor, the driver, or whomever you are. I'm gonna treat you the way that I would want to be treated, and I'm gonna demand that in return. And And that's how, that's how I walk around in the projects. That's how I walked around in prison, general population. That's how I walk around on Wall Street, just because I'm going to offer people, I'm going to extend a certain level of courtesy and respect, and I'm going to demand that in return. Now, in business, I'm going to win, I'm going to lose. Music, I've done well, and I'll do well again. Same thing for film and fashion and real estate. And, God has given me everything I need to get everything I want on this earth. You know what I'm saying?
Now let's talk about that guardhouse. No, I'm bullshit. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up. Tip T.I. Harris.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlotte.
We'll go down this way.
Sure.
And thank you, Ed, for a wonderful, wonderful job. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for Tip T.I. Harris. Wonderful, wonderful. A few things we want to share with you to help your experience of the rest of the day be well, so just listen carefully as you can. Remember to let your family and friends know that there's a live stream of today's session, which can be viewed by visiting blackenterprise.com/ES. Please remember, it's our third day, but we encourage you, download our app in the Visibo app for important updates on this summit. As a reminder, the hashtag is BEIntheQC. We want you to tweet, and we'll be announcing our Twitter winner during the elevator pitch competition. Listen carefully. Happening today at 11:15 a.m. is the top executives in corporate diversity recognition ceremony, followed by an event favorite, the Level Up Pitching for Dollars. You don't want to miss it, so come right back here in the Richardson Ballroom today at 11:15. Now we're going to talk about dinner tickets. Dinner tickets. Dinner tickets for tonight's award celebration will be given out at the registration area this morning and at the afternoon in the Biz Hub at the BE booth. You must have a government-issued ID to claim your ticket. Lost tickets, ladies and gentlemen, they will not be replaced. It's your last day to check out the Biz Hub. There's a lot of exciting activations happening, so we encourage you, please visit our corporate and small businesses, Bankers Row, the AT&T Lounge, and consult with a coach in the coaching corner. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we want to see you back here promptly at 11:15 a.m. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit brought to you by Nationwide.
gotta do me. And my life like a scene straight out of movie. Forget the problems that I used to have. Everything is good, baby, life is grand. I used to sit around and wait for life to come to me. Thought I was comfortable, I wasn't living comfortably. And now I'm on one, just because I went and got it. I hit the islands and live a little exotic. Yeah, baby, I'm a go-getter, I'll never change. I'm all about my checks, yeah, I've been getting paid. I got a ton of zeros, I'm finna rage. I drop a couple thousand, take her on a dinner date. Yeah, I'm sipping champagne, alright. I'm puffing on an airplane all night. Yeah, we just caught a red eye, I'm feeling woozy. I gotta do my thing, you know I gotta do me. Fish. I don't need no one to hold my hand. I do it on my own. Don't need nobody to walk me down my path. I'll do it all alone. I'm so free. Spread my wings. Yeah, I do me. Spread my wings. I take you where you wanna go. I'ma do it all professional. Say I'm a rapper and she rolling eyes. I say you can hit the show with me, we going live. And girl, I got a feeling you ain't been alone. I think you got a man waiting for you home. And he ain't gotta know, girl, I'm just saying that I don't know if he would want you out here playing. But you so independent, you doing you. And yeah, you looking so fine, I love the view. And we can do whatever, baby, I don't follow rules. But when you poppin', you the one who get to choose. Fifth. I don't need no one to hold my hand. I do it on my own. Don't need nobody to walk me down my path. I'll do it all alone. I'm so free. Spread my wings. Yeah, I do me. Spread my wings.
Ladies and gentlemen, please clear the room. We're about to prepare for the next session. Please clear the room.
I don't use the mic, it'll be better. Ladies and gentlemen, we need you to clear the room now. We need to leave. Unless you know you're to be here. Not the diversity. Not
Thank you.
I got one.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Let me just tell Chelsea, those people stay. Chelsea, those people. That's some other group, or I don't know.
We're good, Chelsea. We're good now. Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Simon. Marty Bell. Is Marty Bell here? Okay, thank you. Nathaniel Bennett. Jonna Brown. Do I see Jonna? Okay. Jen, you heard that? No Jonna Brown? Hold Jonna Brown if they didn't come.
Let's go. Come on up together.
Sorry, Jen. Karen Carter. Is Karen Carter here? Oh, okay. Ebony Travis on behalf of Camille Chain Gilmore. I know Ebony's here, I saw her. Libra Clemens. Argo Alexander on behalf of Libra Clemens. Argo Alexander, are you here? Take out Libra Clemens, please. Christopher Collier, you're here. I saw you. Fred Collin or Cologne. Yes. Fred Cologne. He's here? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm up on stage. Sorry. Thank you. Camille Cunningham Pierce. Perfect. Andrew Davis. Michael Ford, glad you could make it. Paul Francisco. I saw you. Is Paul Francisco still in the room? Paul Francisco. Charlita Hatch on behalf of Michelle Gadsden Williams. Okay, I need you to come over to this line. Mia Hairston's here. You can line up. Ash Hansen. Ash is here. No Ash. Barbara Hardy. Yes. Sharon Harvey Davis. Okay. William Harworth. William Hawthorne. No William Hawthorne. Please pull it. Joanne Hill. I saw Joanne. Okay, thank you. Calvin Jackson. And Ramon Jackson. Phyllis James. Phyllis James, are you moving? Tony Gladney, accepting on her behalf. Is Tony here? Tony's not here. Pull it, please. Miranda Bennett King on behalf of Susan Johnson. Thank you. Addie Athene Rucker on behalf of Latanya King. Thank you. No, she's in her right. Oh, I did. Sorry, put it back. Okay. Miriam Lewis. I saw you. Okay. Cheryl Lindsay. No Cheryl? No Cheryl. Janice Little? Okay, thank you. Come on to your spot in line, please. I didn't see that. Who is this? Okay, wait, but who is it? Stephanie Smith? Okay, you just have to keep that out to remind me. I have to slide it in because I need that name. Oh, no, put that in. Here, put it here. Whatever, you tell me. Where are we? We are at Janice Little. Okay. So, okay, you want to get your place in line, please? Kim Manigo Jenkins, I know you're here. You want to get your place in line, please? Bethany Mason has been here. I saw, okay, there you go. Dr. Charles Sy McLean. Charles Saya. He told me how to say it. There he is. Okay. Wendy McSweeney, I know you're here. You can join in line. Doug Melville. Pull Doug, please.